Exactly.
in a way.
So they go the other way. That's been my experience with a lot of clients and a lot of candidates when I was a
Interesting.
recruit. Yeah, it is. And it's really a job and a half trying to convince people when you work with them as a client that it's really in their best interest if they really sit down, write on a piece of paper, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses,
Yeah.
how do you turn a weakness into something that's a strength, how do you put a positive
It's
spin on it.
interesting.
And it's that's why, as I said before, that's why people really need somebody sometimes who can take a step back, who's not as intimately as involved with them, like someone who goes to a therapist. They can see your qualities and they can help you in a way that someone who's very close to you. So it's very hard. It's very difficult for people to write their own resume. Very.
Yeah.
It's very hard for me when I've had to do it.
Yeah. I think everybody, when it comes to talking about themselves, they can talk about the weather, their friends, their family, if you work for a company, the product.
Do you find, because it's interesting because you and I know each other from the mentoring committee.
Right.
Do you find that people are very funny? Because I've looked at this too, heading up a mentoring committee at NAPW. Do you find that people are very funny about when it comes to talking about themselves? They're a little shy about it. They're a little intimidated. They think it may be taking up selfish time.
I think most people do. I want to get to the interview preparation part, but you brought up that we did meet each other through AWNY, Advertising Women of New York, and they have a mentoring program that's been around since '97.
Right.
And I happen to, aside from the other hats that I wear, I chair that mentoring program. Right. And it's, being a mentor is about giving to a mentee and helping them and guiding them. And that's not the place that you want to be a shrinking violet.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think that it's probably, as for you as well, it's all tied in doing the kind of work you do and doing the kind of work I do. I enjoy giving to someone knowing that I've made a difference in someone's career, even if, however small it might be. Yeah.
They remember, when you do give somebody an aha moment.
Right.
Or help them with something that they're having a tough time going through.
Most people have a tough time when it comes to this kind of, and it's very scary. There's a whole psychological edge when we're talking about somebody who's out of work or making a career transition. It's very scary for people to be out of work suddenly, whether they're new in the workforce or whether they're just transitioning careers midstream. There's a lot of psychological stuff that goes on that people really need someone who's in their corner who can hold their hand or just be their champion. And I think in some ways that's part of what mentoring is about as well. Being honest, of course, having that honest relationship, but really being in someone's corner and just giving them the extra little, aha, you can do it.
Exactly. And most people need that today. I think mentoring programs have become that they're spreading like wildfire.
I know.
Companies are even jumping on board.
I know.
With mentoring programs.
I know.
To help out the younger people in the company who might need help, who might need guidance. That there's somebody for them to go to and talk to confidentially.
Well, it helps the company ultimately.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely.
If they have a happier employee and someone who feels very confident and in their work, they'll only be more productive and they'll want to go to work and not think, oh, Monday rolls around, I don't want to be here.
Exactly.
So I know that you're very big on mentoring as I am, obviously.
True. We both do it. So let's talk a little bit about the interviewing preparation, because that's the second part of the resume development.
Absolutely.
That is ultra important. You got the interview, and you go on the interview, and that's the place that you really, if you haven't put it in your resume about how you've done, what the impact you've had, what the bottom line you provided to the company,
exactly.
The interview is the place to do that.
Absolutely.
So how do you work with people in preparing them for the interview?
Well, there are different layers. One of the most important things is that someone does their research before they go into the particular interview, that they know the company, that they've done their research about the company, what the company culture is like, that they know very up-to-date news about the company. and that they are prepared in the types of questions that potentially could be asked of them. Because when you're in an interview and someone asks you a question, what makes you unique, and you sit there and I don't know, that's when the interview drops and you've lost the second, going back into the second one. You have to be prepared for certain very key answers.
Yeah, because so my hunch is that interviewing is a psychological game.
It is.
That
it is.
And I think the interviewee is not really aware of if it's a good interviewer.
Right.
There are a lot of people that do not know how to interview.
Absolutely.
But those that do, it's really a psychological game for them to find out who is this person without the calling card or the resume.
Right. Well, what makes it very difficult is that it's all about your presentation. It's not, and connecting with the interviewer. You can have a great background, have a great education, have great experience, be very knowledgeable, but if you don't connect on some human level, or if you don't have a good presentation, or you don't look your very best, or if you're inappropriate during the interview, you have strikes against you. And so that's a very key piece as well. Not only being prepared for the kinds of questions that might be asked of you, but going in and looking the part. That's why I call it a game, and knowing what they're looking for. They want to see someone who's really confident. They don't want to see someone who's interviewing you. They don't want to see someone who is down and out and has no self-esteem. And something may in your personal life have gone wrong that day, but you can't bring that into an interview. So it is. It's very hard, and it's a skill. And I always tell my clients, the more you do it, the better you get.
Right. So just to go out and kind of audition. Even
you're hitting on a lot. These are all my words. I say it's like an audition. It is. It's like an audition, and this is the stage.
Right.
And the thing is that you have to be yourself, but you have to be very professional and very composed. The moment you walk into the reception area, you're on.
That's
you're
true.
on.
Right. Spotlight is
right,
on you.
Right. Well, a lot of people don't realize the minute they go into the floor, the office where they're about to be interviewed, that the receptionist is very often the eyes and the ears. I've had that happen to me when I was a recruiter, how receptionists would say, this next candidate did some very strange stuff. I think you should be aware of that. You are on the minute you walk in to that interview before you even meet the interviewer. And you have to be aware of that. But you also have to feel very natural and be very comfortable. So that's hard, being at your very best, but being very natural at it. Because you can't fool
most people are not. So here's my hunch, unless you're a serial interviewer. Most people are not that comfortable in an interview because unless they are just doing it and they're not interested in the position, but most people have a lot at stake when they go into an interview. There could be 10 people waiting for that same job. And if they really not only want it, but for some reason they need it, it can throw your game off.
Yes, you hit on something very interesting because most people, it has nothing to do with background, age, experience, education. So many people, no matter how smart, it has nothing to do with it. It just has to do with feeling confident and being skilled at it. And there are some wonderful candidates that I met that I brought into some major clients, but they flubbed it in the interview. I'm not the fly on the wall when they're in the interview. I can't hold their hand. I can best prepare them, and they have to do their prep. But a lot of people are very uncomfortable because they know they're on.
Yes, and it circles back with what we talked about, the resume, that it's the same process in the interview. That what I tell my clients, you had better answer the question, what do you bring to the party that the other 5 candidates standing out there don't bring?
Exactly.
And again, what was the impact of what you did or do in your present position? What's the bottom line that you've achieved, or the return on their investment?
Exactly. And most people are not really prepared for that answer. That's one of the key things when I work with a client, that I make sure that they understand their value and what makes them so unique. And it doesn't mean, well, I'm hardworking. Certain things are expected. Give me something more tangible than hardworking.
So what would be a few little nuggets that might answer that question?
Something that proves that you are the kind of person that can add to the bottom line. For instance, if you are a recruiter going in for a recruiting job, you can boast about, you can talk about all the placements, significant placements that you made. And you have to be able to give yourself permission to do that, not be afraid to talk about your accomplishments. Again, that's very, very important. Something very tangible and very specific, something that's very measurable, very key that you know would set you apart from somebody else. For me, having been a recruiter, it might be talking about being able to be a top-tier vendor for a major client like a Goldman Sachs. If I were going in for a recruiting job, I could talk about that, and that would turn someone's head and make them say, "Whoa, you know, she's obviously a good recruiter. She's able to work with a major client." Things that you know when you're going into that interview that are very key. And I also tell people when they go into the interview that they should really look carefully at the job description and the job requirements and see how you can transfer your experience and express your experience and how that would play into that role.
Exactly.
That's very important. People forget to do that.
Right, exactly. And so here's something. When I was in advertising sales, I did really well because people trusted me.
Right.
In coaching, I work a lot with core values.
Right.
What do people innately have? And mine are integrity and honesty. And that came across really, truly so in my advertising world. And people wanted to work with me because they trusted me. They knew that I wasn't going to screw them over.
Right.
And that was very important to them.
Absolutely.
So, you know, core values, sometimes somebody say, but I have to think, okay, again, a hunch, that has to also play into who you are innately as a person when you're going for an interview.
Again, you're bringing up something very interesting because I tell clients, when I was recruiting, I would tell clients, and I tell my clients now, don't forget that you're not just a person who has a professional background. You're a person who comes to this world with a set of values, traits, characteristics, skills, and companies hire you not just for your experience and your background and your education, but also because you fit in and they get a good sense of you. They get a warm, fuzzy feeling. Maybe they don't express it that way, but that's very important.
You know, today it's called the soft skills, emotional intelligence.
Soft skills versus hard skills.
IQ
Absolutely.
or skill set.
Absolutely.
And that also comes into play a lot.
Well, I used to tell clients, you know, companies that were hiring, don't just look at this person's background, look at the person. This is a human being who comes into this world with experience and skills and a personality and ethic. Work ethic is very important.
So, I know this went really quickly. We have a couple of more seconds left. Why don't you throw your website out there? If anyone wants to get in touch with you.
My website that is still under construction.
Or your email?
My email is lrcareercoach, careercoach @gmail.com. And if I may give my blog?
Sure.
My blog is Laura Rivchun. I'll spell that. It's LauraRivchun, career expert @blogspot.com. I know it's a mouthful.
Oh, I wanted to say thank you very much.
Not at all. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
This was really great, and
Thank
I really
you.
enjoyed it
So did I.
so much. And
always good talking to you.
Thank you all very much.